All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am excited as always, anytime I have a chance to go ahead and speak to fellow professionals about opportunities in a niche that's very, very ignored still, in spite of the numbers, which I'll be sharing with you today. Before we go ahead and get started, I would be remiss if I didn't ask everyone to just pause for a second and remember what today is 9/11. We all know, we all remember where we were, what we were doing when we got the news. So I think that at some point today, it would be really cool, appropriate, I think, to just go ahead and just stop and reflect a little bit. A lot of lives were lost, and they're never going to be forgotten. Now, a little bit about myself. I know some of you just by looking at the screen. I have some friends on the call, but you're probably wondering, oh, this guy's Irish, Tony Martinez. Well, close. But let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about my background as far as speaking, so you can kind of get a sense if I really am qualified to go ahead and teach on this topic or teach at all. I've been doing this a very long time. I've had the opportunity to be in front of many different audiences, whether it's a small group at an office or an association of realtors, or like the bottom left, a Century 21 convention. I've been asked to be a guest speaker at other functions, spoken at offices, spoken at conventions and such. So I've been doing this a long time. And while I feel that I'm capable of speaking on a lot of different topics, the one that people most associate me with is the CDPE, not to be confused with the COPD. That's a whole different thing there. But the CDPE is a private designation. So one of the things I like to do right away, right out of the gate, is just to go ahead and dispel any myths and misconceptions. So we are a private designation that's been around since 2008. So we're not new to this game. It is certified distressed property expert. And what I'm going to do is take you on a little history lesson, not long, but I would like to know the level of experience that we have here in the audience. 2008, how many of you were licensed during the great financial crisis? Okay, I see Susanna. So let me do this. Put a thumbs up or write, I was there, or write, I'm an OG, which is old guard or original gangster. If you were around back then, yep, I was there and all that. Not there. Frederick says, "Oh, well, you missed all the fun, Frederick, but you've been making up for it." So a little bit of a history lesson, because I know a lot of my agents are licensed in the last few years, and they really don't understand what we went through. So just imagine a scenario where millions upon millions of homeowners are in foreclosure. Okay, we're not going to get into the whole history of what brought us there or anything else, but I will tell you this: the CDPE was there, and we made a difference. It was actually launched in 2008. Can you imagine the timing? Now, the timing was so great because so many of the people back then were underwater. And I don't mean physically, I'm talking about they owed more on their property than they could sell it for. They had zero equity, beyond zero equity, and they needed to get out. And the only way to get out was through a short sale. And guess what? Nobody knew what to do. The whole industry was completely unprepared. And then this course came around. And I joined them, and I trained about 25,000 agents during my run with them. I had the pleasure of also teaching all of the other instructors to go out there and do what we did best. We filled classes all across the country. For 2.5 years, I was on the road every single week. Even though it was a private designation, it became the most popular designation certification ever in the history of real estate, reaching almost 50,000 members. And just about anybody that was anybody endorsed us. In fact, a few years ago, I think like 3 or 4 years ago, I was at the REMAX convention, R4, and lo and behold, Mr. Liniger brings it on stage and says, you know what? One of the things that really got us through the great financial crisis was the fact that so many of us became CDPs during that time. So that was just all about establishing a little bit of credibility. Now let's talk about what my goals for today are. Number one, there's an opportunity out there for you to do two things: increase your income and help someone else. Help someone else do what? Avoid foreclosure. Now, part of me is, I don't know, I need to motivate you to do this. It's one thing to say, oh, yeah, that's really nice. Or, hey, you know what? I never knew any of this. But can I get you to actually say, I need to do something about this. I need to do something about this for me, because it's going to help me provide for my family. and it's just going to help someone else. So, that's half the battle right there. But then I also need to motivate you to get the right training to go out there and do good as opposed to do damage. And that's where a selfish part of me comes out, because I know that my course, the CDPE, is the best there is at what we do. And I do believe that any agent that wants to do those two things, increase their income and help as many people avoid foreclosure, you need to invest in the right training. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and then stick with me to the very end, because I want to offer you some very, very special pricing to go ahead and make the decision to become a CDPE today. I think this slide represents the greatest understatement of the last 2 years. The struggle is absolutely real within our industry. It's no longer kept a secret. For a while there, the narrative was, let's not share that things are tough. We know things are tough. In fact, when 71% of realtors in 2024 did not have a single closing, you have this effect. Okay. And it's going to be a lot more of that this year. We thought 2025 might be an improvement. I don't think so. I think we're going to be sub 4 million units sold this year. And that's just the way it is. Now, is there a light at the end of the tunnel that may not be a freight train? Yeah, we're starting to see interest rates starting to come down. We hope that that's going to be continuing. We hope that all of these people that are sitting on the sidelines right now wanting to sell or not being able to buy will jump in. But we can only control what we have access to controlling, and that is our own personal activity. So what I try to do is just reach out on an agent by agent basis and say, you know what? Don't worry, we're here to help. And we're not the government. We're here to help. Chaos, that's our industry right now. And nothing says chaos more than last year, August, when NAR said, these are all the new rules you got to follow. So if things weren't bad enough, we had to completely readjust the way we did business. Well, I saw a whole lot of agents exiting the business at that point, and a whole lot more complaining, moaning, and you know what. But my opinion is that where there's chaos, there's also opportunity. Now, one of the things I've been striving to do, sometimes I think I'm successful, sometimes not so much, is I'm very old school. And what I mean by that is that I still believe that you list to last. To be in this business, even though things are changing and we're seeing it trend toward being more of a buyer's market now, I always and will believe that being a listing agent should be at the very top of the list. And hopefully you agree with me. And especially when it comes to the area of nothing else, compensation. You know what? One side is worried about getting paid on the deal, and one side is not. And guess what side is not being worried about getting paid? And that's the listing side. But I think we've been going about it wrong, because I think there's a couple of different schools of thought. One school of thought is go out there and, beat the bushes, do farming, continue to do all these things, because eventually the folks on the sidelines are going to sell. And I completely agree with that. I completely agree with continuing to go out there and do what you have to do to let people know what it is that you do for a living. But I think that that is a strategy to get listings maybe in 6 months, maybe in 12 months. I have a sneaking suspicion that there's folks out here in this audience right now that you don't have 6 months. You don't have 12 months to wait. You need some business right now. So is that you? Tell me in the chat area. It's me. I need business right now. So here's what I'm trying to get you to do. Stop trying to motivate people to sell that are not ready to sell right now. Stop trying to convince someone that's got a 2.5% interest rate that all of the reasons why they should sell now and go to 6.5. I think that's a futile attempt. How about this? What if we identify people that are motivated, people that have no choice but to sell? And I think that that leads us to another conversation, and that is, why don't we have more specialization in our industry? At any point in time, we have 1.2 million realtors. Look, I could get in trouble for this, but then again, I'm too old for filters. How many of you would, like me, agree that the United States does not need 1.2 million realtors? Anybody else feel the same way? Do you think we could get by with slightly less, fewer? So the way I look at it is we go about this all wrong. From the minute we get our licenses, we're told, go out there and try to be everything to everyone. So we're general practitioners. And I don't know about you, but I've noticed something along the way in my years that specialists always make more than general practitioners. And what we need more in our industry, right, is people that specialize on certain niches. There's riches in those niches. And I own a couple of them, meaning that I own courses in two of them. Today, I'm going to talk about pre-foreclosures. Now, let me go ahead and tell you what a pre-foreclosure is and what it's not, okay? Because I want to make sure that we're on the same page. Someone is behind on their payments. They may not be in foreclosure yet. They're simply in default. They're delinquent. You with me so far? Uh-huh. Then at some point, the state says, I'm coming after you, meaning that the person that's holding the note files in the system to go ahead and begin the process of foreclosure through that state. Okay. They still haven't lost the house. They're still the owner. There's going to be a sale date at some point when that house is auctioned away. That's when they're no longer the owner. Here's what I'm telling you. You can go list that home at any point in time before they lose it. And you can help them avoid that foreclosure, which is devastating. And I'll talk about that in a second. What we are not is an REO company. We are not an REO training. REO means that they lost the house. And now the bank owns it. And then the bank's going to put it up for sale at some point in the future. I see agents all the time saying, I wish I could be an REO agent. I go, you must not know what you're talking about. Because at the end of the day, the opportunities within the REO world are very limited, where every single person that is behind on their payments right now facing foreclosure is a potential listing for you. It is the low-hanging fruit. And this is why I do these as my John the Baptist attempt to go out there in the wilderness and say, guys, wake up. There's something that you're not thinking about, and there's something that needs to be done. But I run into this a lot. Now, this is not you because you're here with me today. But think about all the agents. No, you know what? I don't blame the agents too much. You know who I blame? I blame their brokers, their managers, their team leaders, their CEOs, because most of these so-called leaders really don't lead. See, what I preach goes against the narrative. The narrative is there's nothing wrong with real estate, never has been, never will be. And for those of you that were around in 2008, you probably were around in 2006 and 7, and you remember the bubble, and you remember the warnings. And who told loudly, who kept saying loudly, we have nothing to worry about? The real estate industry. Up until it completely fell apart. So if you are the kind of person that sees what I see, that more and more people are going into foreclosure and more of these people are underwater, you start seeking out some short sale training, but you can't find it because so many of the brokers out there say, no, this is not for us. Let me tell you what typically happens in one of my live in-person classes. I'll tell the audience, look, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for having a heart to serve. Just, I want to warn you about something. When you go talk to your broker and ask them what type of forms maybe they require that you use for short sales, you may get serious pushback. And the broker or manager, team leader says, no, I don't want you anywhere near short sales. And the answer is why is simple. They don't know short sales. So they don't want you doing something that they don't understand. And then those people call me pretty soon afterward and say, Tony, are you hiring? Because I want to join someone that actually believes what I do. All right, get ready to write down some stats because there's opinion and then there's facts, right? And what I always do is about this time every month, I go to adamdata.com. In fact, I'll be checking them out a little bit later today because normally around the 11th or the 12th of the month, they come out with the stats for the month before, if not the quarter before. So that's the bottom of the screen, adamdata.com. And what I always pay attention to is what's going on with the foreclosure activity. Is it stalling? Is it going backwards? Is it jumping? And guess what? For July, it jumped. It spiked. 11% up from the month before and 13% up for the year before. And then when I start hearing these so-called experts spinning and spinning and spinning, then I know, wait a minute, I might start getting really, really busy very, very soon. And we have been, or I've owned the CDPE now for 4 years. And a lot of people told me, you're insane. We're not going to need this. I said, okay, I've been called worse. And then now all of a sudden, more and more people are saying, hold on a second. How do I get this training? Look at this map, because some of the states that were mentioned here are in the top 10. My state is second. Texas, I'm going to be teaching in Texas the end of this month, beginning of October. You guys are eighth. All right. And if you were around back in 2008, this is deja vu all over again. These are all pretty much the same suspects, with the exception of maybe South Carolina. I got a lot of friends out there in South Carolina right now. You guys have been as much as number one, and Columbia, South Carolina has been number one in the country. What are you doing about this? Now, here's where the states line up. Again, I couldn't put all 50 states, but you can go to adamdata.com, go under recent articles, and look up the information there. But you'll see that there's a lot of very big states that are in the top 25. Now, let's back up a second. Before you pay attention to who is leading the foreclosure activity, pay attention to where the heat map is on delinquencies. See, when someone's 30 days behind on their mortgage, of course, the mortgage company or the servicer is getting concerned, but things get really dicey and serious when they're 3 or 4 months behind, which is called serious delinquency. And what you can see is that the top states are out there are like Louisiana, Florida, South Carolina. These are the things you got to be careful of. Delinquencies are going to lead to foreclosures. Speaking of delinquencies, let me tell you the narrative, okay? The narrative is foreclosure rates are at historically low levels. You have probably heard that, right? Well, that's when you take all mortgages into consideration. How many of you have heard of FHA loans? Silly question, right? Do you know that what caused the great financial crisis back in the day were subprime loans? And then they went away. What took its place? FHA. Do you know that currently about 68% of current FHA mortgages are at toxic levels of income to debt ratios? And every time these loans are done and people buy in these homes, I'm thinking, what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years? But take a look at the bottom of the screen where it says FHA loans were a major contributor to the annual rise in delinquencies, accounting for roughly 90% of the 131,000 increases in past due loans. They account for 90%, but FHA only accounts for 15% of all mortgages. 1 in 10 FHA mortgages is in default, people. That should scare you. It does me. And VA loans are starting to heat up now too. You know why? Because all of the moratoriums to not foreclose on veterans VA loans, they're gone. And the program called VASP that was in place where the government was buying, VA was buying these bad loans and modifying them, is done. So you're going to start seeing an increase in that area. Do I have your attention? And then there's other factors. Have you seen the debt levels in our country? What's happening with student loans? I'll tell you what's happening with them. They're not being paid. Okay. Next, unemployment. Did you see the revised employment numbers for June 2024 to June 2025? Minus 911,000. Have you seen the number of layoffs lately? What about the folks that are sitting there, with a stable loan? They have a fixed loan, but you know what goes up? Their insurance. What goes up? Their property taxes, their homeowner association. 62% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. 33% of Americans that earn $150,000 a year or more are paycheck to paycheck. Only 40% of Americans have $1,000 sitting in a savings account. So can they afford an increase in their payments? Can they afford to handle the increase in that buy down mortgage that they had when it reset? My wife, who I love and is my partner, she sat me down the other day after I did one of these and she says, man, I'm depressed. Whenever I see you teach one of these, I go, you're good at what you do, Tony, but man, the first 15 minutes of your presentation are just depressing. And I go, what do you suggest I do? Throw a little rainbow in there, throw some, balloons, some happy faces. I go, we're talking about a serious situation. I think even more depressing than mine is probate. When you're out there teaching probate, it's because somebody died. So at the end of the day, folks, we don't cause this. This is not us hoping and praying it happens. This is going to happen. My concern is, can I help people avoid foreclosure? I'm going to try to help them stay in their home. But you know what? Let's be real. It's probably not going to happen. By the time most people get to one of us in this movement, it's way too late to try to keep them in their home. Then it comes down to 3 words. Write these down. Ready? Can I help them exit with dignity? That's it. Can I help them exit with dignity? Here's what's not dignified: having the sheriff escort you out. And if you think people are going to be saved with all the equity that we supposedly have, ask yourself this question: how can they access the equity if they can't borrow because they don't have a job? See, it doesn't matter how much equity you're sitting on. It doesn't mean you can afford to make your payments if you're laid off. And what amazes me is that in 2008, 9, and 10, in the middle of all that stuff, most of the foreclosures, people were underwater. Now what I'm finding is that still, not for long, a lot of the foreclosures now, the person has equity. Now you tell me how it makes any damn sense at all for someone to let the bank take their home when they're sitting on equity. Because what they should be doing, and I know it's hard, is accepting the reality of the situation, listing with one of us, and walking away with as much money in their pocket as possible. Because if they let the house go to foreclosure, they're not walking away with any money initially. They're going to have to wait to get their money, and it's going to be a lot less money because the bank's going to subtract all of the fees that are associated with it. That's where we come in. I'm going to take your questions, I promise. I'm going to allow enough time at the end for any questions, comments. You can also put your questions in the chat area. We'll get to them. But I would like to go ahead and say the following. In case you haven't heard of us, you may have heard of SFR, which is NAR's course and everything else. The thing that I'm constantly fighting against is that I'm independent. In fact, there are a lot of boards and associations of realtors out there that won't let me come in and teach my course because we're not part of NAR. So in other words, what they're saying is, we don't want, this is what I hear. They may not think they're saying this, but this is what I hear. Your course may be the best, but we're not going to offer it. And my course is the best because I've actually asked ChatGPT, and who knows more than he does or she does or they do. I was bored one day and I go, hey, you know what? Chat, my man. Because I'm nice to ChatGPT, because you know why? One day when AI takes over the world and starts to get rid of humanity, I want them to say, not Tony though. He was always nice. Tony always said please and thank you. But I digress. I asked, hey, Chat, what is the best short sale course out there for realtors? And it comes back, oh, CDPE, of course. And then it said SFR underneath. So don't take my word for it. Ask any agent that's taken SFR and taken CDPE, which is the best course. Find me one that thinks that it was SFR. I've yet to find it. I'm pretty proud of that. I contributed to that. So again, our mission, can we help them stay in their home? If we can't, can we help them exit with dignity? How do we do that? By knowing our stuff. What does that mean? Sometimes you have to convince them to do the right thing. They are their own worst enemies in this situation. One of the first things you'll need to do, and this is stuff from my course, I'm sharing you some stuff right now from my course, is you have to understand what foreclosure is and what foreclosure isn't. So we talk about the foreclosure process. Foreclosure is not a one-time thing. It is a process. And I'm going to talk about the timeline in a second. But the consumer doesn't know it's a process. The consumer gets a notification, and many of them freak out. They pack and they leave in the middle of the night. Have you heard of the term zombie foreclosures? Because there's over 1 million of them in this country. And these are properties that are vacant, still owned by the owners, the borrowers, but they bugged out. And in many cases, it's because they don't know their rights. They don't know what processes are available to them. When I teach agents how to do short sales, I say the following: short sales are done the same in all 50 states. No variation on how a short sale is done. What is different is how each state does its foreclosure process. Homework assignment number 1, you ready? Find out if your state is judicial, meaning that all foreclosures have to go through the court system, non-judicial, which means no, outside of the court system, or they have the option of either one, but usually one is more prevalent. Example, Florida, 100% judicial. New York, New Jersey, judicial. That means they must go through the court system, takes longer. Texas is both, but the non-judicial approach is the most popular because it's faster. So that's what you need to find out, okay? Now, I focus on mortgage default. Don't forget that someone can be foreclosed on for not paying their property taxes or paying their associations, which that's on the rise, by the way. But we're talking about mortgage default, okay? So when can the servicer go after them? Well, federal law says they have to sit on their hands for 120 days, at least 120 days. A servicer cannot initiate foreclosure activity until the borrower is at least 120 days in default. Then the legal process can begin. Write this down. The banks don't want the houses. The servicers just want to get paid. Just because they can go after them after the 4th month doesn't mean they will. But eventually they will. And then it's called something in your state. Find out what it's called in your state. Is it less pendants? Is it NOD, notice of default? Is it a complaint? Is it a notice of sale? Find out what it's called in your state. Now, I can't go into a lot of specificity here right now like I can in the course. Remember earlier I mentioned that you can list that property up until the time it is auctioned away. That is what the bank sale or auction date is. That is game over day. You have to get it on the market and get the foreclosure activity halted so that you can have enough time to get it sold and closed. Homework assignment number 2 or 3, find out if your state has a redemption period, meaning that after the borrower loses the home, they can stay in their home for a certain period of time. Most states don't have something like that, but Michigan and Minnesota do. In Michigan or Minnesota, you can stay in your home for 6 months or longer after losing it, because they want to give the person a chance to win the lotto and pay off the loan. Doesn't happen very often. Now, next step to becoming really, really good is to be able to make the argument with someone in this situation that letting foreclosure happen, letting the foreclosure take place, is one of the worst things that they could do. And a lot of them don't know this. You know why? They're not in the business. Hey, if the people in the business don't know, how can I expect the consumer to know? So here's the deal. You may find someone that says, you know what, let them take the house. I'm done with this. I'm sick of it. I get it. They're fed up. They're tired of looking over their shoulder. They just want out. And then you go to them and go, look, I feel you. But let's talk about the consequences, right? Do you know that if you have a foreclosure, that's going to be on your record for up to 7 years? And the person might say, I could care less, man. I'm done with this, man. I'll pay everything cash, man. I says, okay, well, dude, okay, take a deep breath. Okay. Now let me ask you something before I go. You think you ever want to be a homeowner again in the future? What do you think most people are going to say? They're going to say, yeah, why not? I go, I thought you say that. So let me ask you this. Do you want to live with the restriction of not being able to get financing for 5 to 7 years? Or let me help you with this short sale and you might be a homeowner again as little as 2 or 3 years. See, this is what I teach. I teach dialogue as well. See, I'm an old school Floyd Wickman guy. I teach people what to say, when to say it, and how to say it. That's a forgotten skill in our industry. What to say, when to say it, and how to say it. You know what's not my job? For you to say it to as many people as possible. I'm not there to create leads for you. I'm there to prepare you to go out there and prospect and get your leads. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the fact that they may have a job and then they do foreclosure and then they lose their job. Because there are employers out there that you can't stay employed with them if you have a foreclosure or bankruptcy on your record. Let's say that they went into the situation because they were unemployed. Now they lost the house. They go, well, at least I can start over, but they can't get a job because they have a foreclosure or bankruptcy on their record. Let's say that they're military or they're law enforcement or TSA or government contractor, and they have a security clearance. Guess what they may not have after a foreclosure? A security clearance. Do you think that as a real estate professional, this is kind of stuff we need to learn? That we could have a conversation with someone and say, I get it, you're pissed, but what do you do for a living? Oh, doesn't that entail a security clearance? Oh, have you talked to your HR department about what could happen if you have a foreclosure on your record? What about the fact that many states have what is called a deficiency judgment? That means that the lender can go after them should they lose money. So this doesn't apply if there's equity. If there's equity, the bank is made whole. You're done. But if it's a short sale, or I'm sorry, if it's underwater, okay, if it's underwater and the bank forecloses and the bank sells it for a significant loss, the state that you reside in may allow the lender to pursue legal action against that homeowner to recover what it is they lost. Now, in a short sale, we overwhelmingly, I can't give an exact number, but if I had to guess, 99% of the time in a short sale, we even though the bank is losing money, we get them to waive the right to pursue action against these folks. That's mucho mejor, or much better. Now, I mentioned they have equity. List it, baby. List it for sale. Now, here's what I say. I say that a property with equity is a regular sale with urgency. Why urgency? The clock is ticking. The clock is ticking. Hey, you know what? I'm in a semi-good mood. I'm going to give you a gift. Okay. So Bernadine goes, really? Okay. So here's the deal. Every single day right now, there's somebody in this country, a real estate agent, listing a home for sale that they think is a regular sale. But they didn't do a lien search right out of the gate. And you know what they find out at some part of the process, way too late? That they owe more on that property than they thought they did. They had a partial claim mortgage, they had a forbearance loan. And guess what? Now that agent has a potential short sale, but it was never disclosed to the buyers that it was an underwater property, it was a short sale. Do you think some legal actions might happen in those scenarios? That's why I teach all the time. Doesn't matter. Always do a lien search right out of the gate. Because oftentimes folks don't even know that they have a forbearance loan. Remember COVID when people didn't have to pay their mortgages? What do you think happened with all that money they didn't have to pay? It got added on as a forbearance. Do you think they remember that? Oh. sometimes people say, Tony, you should actually be like maybe more passionate about this. All right. So what is a short sale? Because you hear this thing thrown around a lot. Do you know that it's so simple? If the property, I actually had this question asked to me the other day. Someone wrote to me and said, Tony, if the property appraised for more than what is owed, is it a short sale? I go, no, it's only a short sale if they owe more than what they can sell it for. See what I mean? It's underwater. So just because, here's why this is important. You may have somebody that's in foreclosure. Don't assume they're underwater. First, find out, what do you owe? Then do a CMA and find out. They may have equity. And then you don't have to worry about any of the forms and processes associated with a short sale. Now, if it is underwater, list it as a short sale. And I show you soup to nuts in the course, everything you have to do, how to price it, how to make sure you get the right offer, how to structure the package, how to work with a professional negotiator, and most importantly, what are the qualifications for someone to be a candidate for a short sale? Because it's not a get me out of my mortgage free card. It's not for folks that are seeking a strategic default. You have to meet the big three qualifications. You need to have a hardship. You have to be able to prove it in writing. You need to be able to show your financials, that every month you have more money going out than is coming in. And you should be insolvent, which means you're broke. Because if you're sitting on a ton of money in a savings account, you're not broke, brother. The bank's going to say, okay, I don't understand why we're even having this conversation. You have $75,000 in your savings account. Why aren't you current on your mortgage payment? Now, does the same apply to your IRA and 401k? Hold on a second. They can't seize it because they're retirement accounts, but they can factor it into their decision-making. I mean, if you're 35 years old and you got $400,000 in an IRA and you're asking the bank to lose $100,000 on a short sale, they might question why it is that they should do it when you're sitting on $400,000 that you can tap, by the way. Oh, but I got to pay a fee. Okay, pay it. People did it to buy houses in 2021 and 2022. They cashed out so they can make cash offers. That means you can cash out to pay your debt. So what we teach is you need to ask questions. And when someone is less than an ideal candidate, you have to be able to say, there's always a possibility that the bank may ask for a contribution. Not saying they will. We're not going to suggest it. But let's face it, you're not an ideal candidate. You're a quasi candidate, but not an ideal candidate. I will help you. I will work with you so long as you understand what it is that we're up against. Y'all feel me? You guys understand what I'm trying to get there? Okay. Number one question I get asked, besides, are you single? Just kidding. Where did that come from? Okay. I'm losing it. I've been doing this too long. The number one question I'm asked is, well, where do I find these people? And it's so simple because it's all public record, right? It's public record. So you just go to the courthouse site, wherever your courthouse is, county courthouse, and then you can look it up. But I got a better way. But I'm going to teach you a couple of strategies real quick here. This is my gift, all right? I teach a lot more during the class, but let me give this to you for being here. But I need you to do something. I need you to do an exercise with me real quick. I need you to take a sheet of paper and draw 3 columns, right? 3 columns on a sheet of paper. And then at the top of one column, write A, and then B and C. A, B, C. And then under A, write 70%. And then under B, write 20%. And under C, write 10%. So you got it. 3 columns, A, B, C. Under A, 70, B, 20, and C, 10. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to work backwards. I want you to go find a list of pre-foreclosures in your area and I want you to devote 70%, at least 70% of whatever time you're going to devote to this niche. You may devote 20 hours a week or 2, but 70% of that time should be to your A column, which is people that have a sale date. So right under A, 70% sale date. That means that these folks, the hourglass is almost gone. When it gets to that sale date, unless some kind of action is taken, they lose the home. Don't you think that someone that you approach that only has 3 weeks left should be willing to hear what you have to say? So that's what you do, because the 2 toughest words for us to overcome in this niche is free rent. Because how are they living right now? Free rent. And if you approach someone very early in their process, they're not going to want to do anything because they're living free rent. Now, 20% of your time is for folks that have foreclosure activity formally started against them. They obviously do because you found them on the list. Now, these folks don't have a sale date yet. Now, that could change overnight. So keep an eye on all this. But I would spend 20% of my time on that. So what's the other 10%? These are the folks that you don't even know exist. You know why? They're not on any list anywhere. So how do you reach them? You reach them through, I don't know, social media. Here's an example, right? Let's say, for example, this is, I'm not using a teleprompter app or anything just in case you think, oh man, this guy is scripted. No, let's just say right now, I take the CDPE course. It's lunchtime during the course. And I go out in the hallway and I go, hey, everyone, Tony Martinez here, your local real estate professional. I got a question out there. Are you or anyone you know behind on your mortgage payments right now and you simply don't know what to do? Are you facing foreclosure and freaking out? Well, you're not alone. I'm here learning to become a certified distressed property expert because I have a passion to help folks in this situation. If this is you or someone you know, I'd like to talk to them, or please give them my information. And let me tell you something, folks. Foreclosure is not the only option. For all your real estate needs, I'm here for you. God bless you. Have a great day. That's it. That's how you reach people. But you're consistent about it. You don't do it once and then 6 months later, you try it again. You know what you need to do? You hit them from several different things. Social media is one of them. Direct mail is another. Phone calls are another. Knocking on doors is another. But you need lists, right? When you pull up the list from the courthouse site, it gives you an address so you can do a mailing, but you don't have a phone number. You don't have an email address. And that's why I'm a big fan of RedX. We're going to put a link in the chat area for RedX. This is a subscription service that you go into, and if you subscribe to the pre-foreclosure list, you get all of that information. Does it have a sale date? Phone numbers that are scrubbed against the do not call list. You get email addresses so you can target them by email. One of the things that I'm doing right now is I took a RedX list of 46,000 Florida foreclosures and I uploaded it I got it through RedX, and then I use a product through RedX called Ad Builder. And now I'm doing social media targeted ads to those 46,000 people. Another way that you can build your pipeline of business is through one-to-many approach, and that is put on seminars. What am I doing right now? I'm putting on a Zoom, educating you, but with the goal of hopefully getting you to take some action that involves working with me. You could do the same thing by putting on your own foreclosure prevention webinars. Now, when you do these, you can do them live and in person. I wouldn't. I would do it by Zoom. Because this way, even if you have 4 people on the call, you're recording it, and your recording can continue to work for you. There's a bunch of people that signed up for this Zoom that aren't here. Well, guess what? I'm recording this. A little bit later today, I'm emailing it to everybody that was on the list. Now, if you're multilingual, fantastic. Do it in as many languages as you know. Most of you may be too scared to do it on your own. Don't do it on your own. Ask an attorney to do it with you. Ask a tax professional to do it with you. Let them do some of the heavy lifting. Here's an idea. Daniel's out of Hawaii. Hawaii is not even in the top 30 when it comes to foreclosure action. Yet he's getting a lot of short sale listings. Why? Because he puts on these webinars. And he does it consistently. You see there, he does, 3 different months in a row there. Notice that the message is all about stopping foreclosure, knowing your rights, knowing your options. Of course, there will be a part of the presentation that, what if you can't stay? What if you have to leave? What are your options there? Now, he has posted his success stories. CDPEs have asked, I'd like to know more about your presentation. He says, just use Tony's. What does that mean? Well, I do these as well. My next one is coming up this Monday. Now, it's not for agents. This is for consumers in Florida that are in foreclosure. But what I've done in the past, I've recorded myself doing this. And I share that recording in our CDPE members resources portal. And I also shared my PowerPoint so that any CDPE out there that wants to do one of these, including the marketing piece, so you can just copy this marketing piece, you can just play my video over and over and over so you know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it, and then take my PowerPoint and modify it to suit your needs. That's the extent that I go to help my community. I hope that by now you have an idea that, you know what, if I really got into this, I could really build my business, because there's hardly anybody in my area that's even focusing on this. That's right. And I'd be helping a lot of people along the way. That's right. So the next step is to get the training. Become a CDPE. You have 3 different ways to become a CDPE. And people say, what do you teach? I go, a lot. Because when you look at it, I go through all of the items you see here. And I gotta tell you, I think the most powerful thing I do is walking you through the listing presentation. Because you may know how to do a regular listing presentation, but do you know how to do a listing presentation to someone that's losing everything? So I walk you through the entire thing. I give you strategies for marketing and promoting yourself, how to structure the package, what forms you need, what disclosures you need. I do all this for you, right? Now, when you take the course for 1 year, you're a member of our community. And then you decide after that if you're going to renew or not. What do you get as a member? Well, obviously, you have a certificate that you can and should share. That becomes a really good social media post. And you can get people asking you questions. Well, what is this? What is it you're doing? But I think more importantly is the fact that through our portal, you'll have a username and password that you can log in 24/7 and access all of my forms, all of my checklists, all of my disclosures, videos, marketing pieces. All of this stuff is available to you as long as you're a member. And if you are a member, take advantage of being part of our members only Facebook group, where we continue supporting the community and the community supports itself. Submit your information to be on our map. Who sees this map? Other CDPEs. This is not for the consumer. This is a CDP saying, you know what? I just found out someone needs help in another state. What CDP can I send this to? Now, there's 3 ways you can take it. You can take it live and in person, but here's the challenge. I don't do a lot of these for now. That's going to change as the market continues to shift. And what I always do is I say, if you're a broker owner out there, if you're a manager, a team leader, or you can talk to someone, if you're with the Association of Realtors or you have some influence there, let's have a conversation about bringing me in to teach it live and in person. The only ones I have scheduled right now are 4 of them in Texas, starting with September 29th in San Antonio, then Plano, then Austin, and then Houston. All this information is on our website. We're posting our link to a website there because, you know, I know I'm going fast and furious. I'm excited about going out to Texas because you guys are 8th in the nation when it comes to foreclosures, and you guys have In-N-Out Burger, and it's been too long for me. So I'm going to go out there, and the class is approved for 8 hours of CE, and I'm teaching it personally. It's live, and I'm giving $100 off, so it's only $399, and you can make payments. Okay. So if you're in Texas, near Texas, or want to fly to Texas or drive to Texas, this could be for you. Next, online on demand. Why not? You can start now. You can start immediately. You do it at your pace. Do it in your underwear. I don't care. All right. You have a year to finish it. Now, normally it's $499 for the online or the live or whatever, but because you're on this call with me, I want to thank you by giving you $100 off. You go to our website, you select the online on-demand course, and you enter in the cart, the code that you see there at the bottom, Zoom 100, Zoom 100, no spaces, and you make sure you click on the check mark to the right of that, and then make sure the price adjusted to $399. Do not buy it if it doesn't say $399. You'll send us an email. Jeanette will post a link, the email, and say, wait a minute, guys, my code isn't working for some reason, and we'll get it remedied. There's another way you can take the class. You ready? Live, but virtual, Zoom. I love this because it's kind of like the best of both worlds. It's not the same as me being live and in person, but I am live like I am right now. And the next one coming up is October 7th and 8th. Why do I split it up over 2 days? Because if I tried to do it in one day, your brain might explode. So it's over 2 days. Now, same thing. Normally this is $499, but use the code Zoom. Man, I can't even spell Zoom. What does that say? Zoom. So it's, yeah, it's no coffee this morning. So it's, yeah, you know how to spell Zoom 100. You'll figure that out. Okay. So now you have 3 different choices. But wait, there's more. I tried financing it for my folks. It didn't work. I don't want to be a bill collector, folks. So I partner with Klarna. So if money's a little tight right now, I know it can be, they can offer you 4 interest-free payments. Okay. So you select that option in the cart. But here's a surprise I have for you. And then I'm done, a 2-for-1. What does that mean? If you sign up for the online on demand right now, you'll still be able to have access to the Zoom one absolutely free. Even though it's 2 separate courses, I'm not going to charge you for the second one. So here's how I would do it. I would get the online on demand and knock it out. Write down all the questions that you couldn't ask because it was recorded. Then you're on the calls with me on the 7th and the 8th. And you're hearing it all over again. So you're going to pick up more, and then you can ask me your questions. All right. So we're going to do a 2-for-1 for you folks that select the online on demand. You're going to get the virtual one as well. Last but not least, I mentioned I had 2 niches. I'm very proud that I recently acquired the military residential specialist certification. I have a passion to help those that have served our country. Only 13% of veterans use the VA loan program, which is shameful. And most of the time it's because the agents don't know how to explain it, to bring it up, to convince sellers that it's actually a good thing. So I've been waiting a long time to acquire this course, and now I'm starting to teach it this month. You may not want to be a CDPE, but you can be a MilRes. Or if you are a CDPE, you're going to get an exceptional price on MilRes. So when I send you out the information today, I'm going to include that little extra blurb on, wait a minute, what if you want to be a MilRes along with being a CDPE? What would your pricing be? So look for that, because I'm going to reward. Well, here's what I'll tell you right now. If you're a CDPE, right, and you sign up for my inaugural MilRes, the inaugural MilRes is happening September 24th and 25th this month. on just that one inaugural class, if you're already a MilRes or you already signed up for my course, maybe you haven't finished it yet, but you're signed up for it. Instead of the $225 price, you get it for $95. That's a hell of a deal. Because I want as many of my CDPEs to be MilReses as well. So if you just want to be the MilRes alone, that's $225. But if you're a CDPE, you can be a MilRes for only $95. Anyway, let's stop right now sharing for a second. And what questions do I have? So we have here, it says, there was not there, her stories, old goat. So this is the second time someone told me that. I said, what does OG stand for? They go, old goat. Okay. I'm with you there. I was there in the thick of it. So here's the deal. Let's say you were a CDPE. If you were a CDP back in the day and you have not come back since I bought it, because I don't know if you noticed, the CDP went away and then I bought it and brought it back. You have an opportunity to come back at only 149. At 140, Sheila's going, yeah. Now, you don't have to take the course again. Now, should you? I don't know. How long has it been since you've done a short sale? Maybe you should. So we'll work something out for you. So what you want to do is send an email to support@CDPE and say, I'm an OG. What you got? Because it's amazing. As many emails as I've sent out over the past 4 years, there's still a lot of OGs that are not aware that we're back. Some of them not aware it even went away. So we're going to get you squared away and get you back into the fold. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, Sheila, thank you for being happy. Okay, so my broker told me old school. Told me I was old school. I just shook my head. What's wrong with old school? I love old school. Yeah, South Carolina, folks. I got to tell you, I don't know what you're waiting for in South Carolina, especially Columbia. You got to get on this here. I sold 3 last year and saved them from foreclosure. Way to go, Sheila. God bless you. You're doing God's work there. Frederick, we have no bigger fan than you are, man. We love you. Frederick in New York. He's forgotten more about doing short sales than most people will ever learn. Okay, Tatiana Solution. Okay, yeah. There's some good courses out there, just not as good as ours. Okay, Ohio does. Me too. I'm Floyd. Yes, Floyd. God bless him. Yeah, he gave me my start in being a speaker. Christine McCormick here. Tony, what if it's an estate inherited by an heir with a balance on it? It can be higher. Okay, so same thing. What happens is there's if you inherit an estate that's underwater, then you do a short sale on behalf of the estate. Okay. And I think you even have a better chance because how are they going to collect? So again, a lot has to do with the condition of the estate. So you have an estate, right? The property's underwater, but they got millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars in the estate. Well, wait a minute. One could argue that's not a short sale. So it really comes down to the condition of the overall estate as opposed to just the property itself. All right, so we got that here. Veterans, yes, I have that. Okay, all right. Layla wants to be a MilRes. We'll get you hooked up. She's a CDP. Now, what we always do, just to be fair, folks, we always check to make sure that someone's CDP status is actually current. We have some folks that didn't renew or forgot or whatever, so we always say, all right, how many hours is the course? The online on demand is 6.25 hours. 6.25 hours. When I do the all-day one is all day, 9 to 5. When I do the Zoom version, I do 2 days of 3.5 hours because usually there's a lot of Q&A. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I get to all your questions. Thank you so much for reminding me. Every now and then when I think I've done the perfect presentation, I forget something. Yes, we do have an annual renewal. It's a whopping $99 a year. So hold on to your hats, folks. It's 27 cents a day. Now, let me tell you who doesn't renew. The ones that leave the business, the ones that retire, or the ones that never did anything with what I taught them. We're like a gym. If you've ever been a member of a gym and you canceled after a year because it didn't work for you, did you ever go? So I am not a lead generation source. People confuse that. Well, you never gave me any leads. I go, where's it written that I was supposed to? I am an educational resource for you. I'm not your attorney. I'm not your financial guru. I'm just a simple education dude. I teach you what to say, when to say, and how to say it, but you have to go out there and say it to as many people as possible. But yeah, the renewal has been $99 since its inception, and I've had no desire to raise it. Okay, so we're gonna hook Shula up. New FHA mortgage letter limit 24 months. What's this here? Letter for a month. Yep. Okay. Last September, I want to renew and take the October class. Okay. Yes. Sheila's got some questions. We're gonna hook you up. All right, folks. Listen, does anybody want to unmute themselves and say anything, comment, question, or anything? You know, just take a minute or two for that.
Hey, how you doing?
What's that? Talk to me.
This is Fred. Good morning. How you doing, Tony?
Hey, Frederick.
How you doing? How you doing? Good to always tune in, listen, and learn. I just shared something else with you I just found out this last month with one of the banks in New York that I'm doing a short sale on, M&T Bank. I think we should all read, especially those of us who are in this space, the new mortgage letter that I just pasted over there, which I was in shock to learn. But mortgage letter 2025-06, they mentioned that they're going back to the standard where you can only do one loss mitigation every 24 months. So assuming that this is another thing that's going to really increase the foreclosures, right? So if you do a mortgage forbearance in September 2025 because you lost your job or whatever the case was, then you get forced in 2026 September, you will be unable to do so based upon that guideline.
Thank you. That is so valuable because I don't have time to get into a lot, but there's been a lot of scandals surrounding the FHA deal. It has been revealed, supposedly, that the government has been making the payments to the servicers on behalf of a lot of FHA folks. So what they would do is they basically would make 2 or 3 payments, fall behind on their payments. Then they would come in and do a partial claim mortgage, put it on the back, and then the process would be rinse and repeat all over again. Well, that has stopped. What happened is that it has stopped. And so what's going to happen is people are going to get one shot at it, like Frederick said. They're going to blow it. And then after that, there's going to be no more working with them. Because again, we've had an artificial market for way too long. And I feel for people. I never want anyone to lose their home. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's fair for taxpayers to keep somebody else in their home that maybe could make their payments and choosing not to make their payments because someone else is making it for them. So absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Frederick. All right, folks, that's it. So I'll get the recording out. You may have some questions. Email support@CDPE. But, you know, there's this thing called the law of diminishing intent. You know, sign up now. I know it's money. I know it's an investment. But the longer you wait, the less likely you ought to do it. And by all means, take advantage of if someone offered me 4 interest-free payments, of course I'll take it. You'll be done with the course before you're done paying for it. So, all right, folks. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Do me a favor, share this once you get it. If you have influence, share it with someone that can maybe bring me into town. And thank you so much for making me feel like maybe what I'm doing actually is making a difference. So God bless you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.